Hi, I'm Ralph Preston, and every Tuesday we have our Stroke Buddies Recovery and Science Zoom meeting. And we try and bring people useful information that they can use in their recoveries. And today we've got Genevieve Richardson back for the third time. It's an interesting story. I won't go into it. Genevieve and I had a little trouble connecting at first, but once we did, we found that we really have kind of the same ideas about a lot of things, the same philosophies. And this is her third appearance, and we're grateful for that. The other two were great. We're expecting this one to be great. And thank you, Genevieve, for taking time out of your busy schedule to share valuable information with us. So there you go.
Well, thank you, Ralph. I appreciate the nice introduction. And you're right. I get on Facebook, but I'm not a good Facebook Messenger responder person. I'm really trying to work on that. And that's kind of how we missed each other, why we didn't connect. And it took us a year. I was cleaning up my messengers and I'm like, oh, I gotta contact Ralph. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. And so we're talking about aphasia today. And the idea about it is that you have control over your aphasia. You can do things at home to work on your own recovery. Of course, I'm going to say is working with a speech pathologist is great, but I want to empower you that just like Ralph is showing you so many different things you can do on your own at home, his own recovery. If you've seen those videos, lifting soup cans, figuring out how to do yoga when one side of your body is weak. We can apply the same ideas to aphasia. And so I'd really like I'm fixing my Zoom. Now I can see your faces. Hello, everybody. It's very nice to see you. Thank you for being here today. I like to keep this casual. If you have a question, please jump in. You can put up your hand if you want. I mean, just your physical hand. I don't need electronic. And let's have a conversation because I learned from you. This is not about me telling you what to do. Not my intention whatsoever. I'm here as a service to you. So, how do we know we can keep recovering? Do you guys believe you can still keep getting better? That you can keep making progress with your aphasia? Just like everything else, it's a muscle. Well, not technically, your brain isn't a muscle, but you get the idea. When you work it and you come at it from different angles, you can make a real difference. And when you connect with other people, that also makes a difference. That's the other way that you can make connections in your brain. And because as humans, we want to be with other humans, right? We want people to see us, to understand what we're going through. We want to be heard. And just because you have aphasia doesn't mean you lose that. So what I wanted to talk today about is let's just chat about some things you can be doing at home to work on what we call neuroplasticity. How's that for a big word? Have you heard? Can I get anybody heard this word before? Neuroplasticity. That's what we want. And what we know is you got to work it. You got to use it or you lose it. You've got to challenge your thinking. You got to try new things. I've taken up dancing with my husband. And I tell you what, my brain is exhausted by the time our lesson is over because I'm challenged to put all of the thinking and the planning and the physical movements and it's a lot. but we can simulate the same thing with aphasia. And so, does anybody want to say what you work on in a day to make your aphasia better? Anybody work crossword puzzles, Sudoku? Anybody? Yeah? Winifred? Good. Glad you do that. Do you find it to be challenging?
At times, the harder the puzzle, the harder it's more challenging for me, but I still work it.
That's exactly what you need. That's neuroplasticity at work. How long would you say you work on a puzzle?
Oh, the Sudokus I'm taking about 10 minutes each.
Wow. I haven't done a Sudoku in a while. I would be afraid to know how long it would take me. Now, do you
Sure.
get books that have the harder puzzles, or are you doing it on an iPad?
I have books, like I have ones that 2,000 puzzles. The harder I go into pages, the more challenging it gets. So the beginning is easy, then it's medium, and then challenging, the harder ones. But I do all kinds, just not the easy ones anymore.
Yeah. How long does a hard one take you?
Oh God, maybe about 20 minutes.
Oh my gosh, but still, good for you.
Yeah.
Jerry, I saw you raised your hand. What is it that you work on?
I do some exercises where I learn to read to myself, and I'll read very slowly and pronunciate each word. And I do different exercises to help myself.
Love that. And is that something you do every day?
I try to.
Okay. How does your brain feel when you're done with it?
I really noticed a difference. I just have to just the fact of doing it. There's all kinds of things that get in the way of doing what I want to do. So I just have to sit down and do it.
Yeah. Now you could do something, it's called a dual task. And that means you can increase the intensity of what you're doing, still doing your speech extra, and talking, but could you tap your hand or your foot at the same time you're working on it?
I do that too.
Could throw in some background noise, something that challenges your attention system while you're working. And you can keep it, on low volume. And as you get accustomed to it, make it a little bit louder. I use the word torture, but in a very loving way. Yes, exactly, Ralph. Where we want to continually challenge our attention system. So I will start with background music, just like your basic elevator music, for lack of a better term. And then when I'm working with clients, we might put on more favorite music of theirs. Because then, like, if they're anything like me, I like to sing to my favorite songs. You may not want to hear me sing to my favorite songs, but I'm just built that way. So I have to resist. I have to inhibit that wanting to sing to keep focused on whatever my task is that I'm doing. Does that make sense?
It does.
And then you can take it a step further. You can listen to like talk radio, whether it's sports or NPR or, any of your talk radio stations, because sometimes that works the brain in yet a different way. Because now you're not tapping into that rhythm and melody, right? Which we know is housed more in the right side of your brain. You're now engaging the left side of your brain and you're processing what you're hearing.
Oh.
So you might play with it. And it's not that you have to do one thing. You don't have to do the same thing every day. Play with it. And here's the other part of neuroplasticity. Reflect. Do your 20 minutes of your speech work. with elevator music. And when you're done, like think, how does my brain feel? Was it challenging? Was it not challenging? What would be the next thing I could do to step it up a little bit?
Let me ask you this. Is there one thing that's more beneficial, like listening to music or trying to pronunciate words, or is there one thing that's better than something else?
Doing it. because every person is very different, and it's not that one thing is better than another. It's being active. You're sitting down, you're carving out time in your schedule to work on your speech. You are actively doing something. If you're adding music or talk radio to it, you're adding to it.
So just do it.
Just do it. There is a reason that motto works so well for Nike and athletes. I argue the same thing goes for stroke recovery. Same thing for aphasia. Just do it.
I say the same thing when people ask me, what's the right amount or which ones are more specific. I just, say put your time in, just do it. Yeah. Because
you get better at it.
Well, and that's the most important thing, being focused on, and obviously we can't do something 365 days a year. Jerry said it right. I try to do it every day, and that's the important thing, trying to do it every day and actually doing it as many times as a week or a year as possible, putting in your time, because neuroplasticity, as Genevieve knows, works through repetition. And I have one more thing to say, and that was when I went to a neurophysical therapist, and she had me John Wayne or monster walking, because it forces you to put weight evenly on both sides with a wide stance. And then when I got that down, she said, okay, now I want you to name state capitals or count backwards or something while you're doing it. And I thought, well, that's really odd. So I did state capitals for a while. The problem was that wasn't a challenge for me, because when I was a kid, I memorized all 50 state capitals. So I asked her if I could do math problems. And then I asked her, why are we doing this? And she said, well, it actually builds up your brain. And I did find it did. I had to really not struggle, but I had to think to keep the things separate, to keep doing to keep doing two things at the same time, maintain the proper walk. And I did simple, not too simple. I multiplied 2-digit numbers by 2 or 3-digit numbers in my head, which I can do. So, but it's challenging when you're trying to maintain a proper gait too. So the point is that you do those multiple tasks, as you know, Genevieve, to help challenge the brain. Neuroplasticity also works off the brain being challenged, and plateauing.
Yep.
Plateauing comes from the brain not being challenged. So that's why it's important to mix it up, and maybe even not do the same thing every day, and intentionally not do the same exact thing every day. All right.
Right, because it gets you get into a habit, and then it turns into automatic. Right? One thing you've probably noticed after a stroke, with or without aphasia, you lose a lot of that automatic speech, automatic movement, automatic everything.
Oh, yeah, all
If
of it.
you're doing the same exercise over and over, your brain has built that pathway, so to speak, and now you're doing it and you're not thinking about it. It's the thinking about. So when I use the word reflection, you're thinking about, well, how was it? So Winifred, when you're doing your Sudoku, keep doing your puzzles, but what else could you be doing at the same time? Could you also be listening to music, something that's a little challenging, that wants to draw your attention away? That's one way to do it.
At times, I listen to podcasts and do the Sudoku.
Oh,
Perfect. That's great.
Mhm.
Now let's flip this around. Jerry, you talked about finding time to do your speech work. Well, what if you needed to garden, and you're out gardening, or you need to do you're doing a work on a bicycle. Add your speech work in on top of doing that very repetitive. Just like Ralph was talking about walking with a wide gait and, doing the state capitals. If you've got to do repetitive physical work, add in the mental on top of it.
you know,
Okay, I thought I would have to concentrate on the aphasia doing practices that made me better, but you're saying not to do that and then throw in something else.
Mix it up.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're out walking, instead of just listening to music or a podcast, if
Same.
that's something that you're doing, add your speech exercises to it. Or walk with somebody if you're out walking, so that you have to focus on your conversation and carrying over your articulation. Figure out different ways, but you're consciously making that choice to work on it.
Wow. Okay.
See, it doesn't have to be rocket science, right, Ralph?
no, and if you like to listen to music while you walk, you can sing along with it.
Heck yeah.
Singing is a good
I love it. Yeah.
exercise. I know Kevin Matthews and several other people I know just put on their favorite tunes and find it's real beneficial to just Kevin sings for an hour a day, doesn't he, Winnie? I think.
Yeah, he does.
So and that's not like so much of rehab, especially if you do a lot of it, gets so boring.
Yeah.
Oh, so boring.
It's so hard to okay, I know I need to do this. I'm being good. I'm going to keep being good, but God, this is a drag. So anything
Yeah.
that you can do to make it more interesting or liven it up is good. And singing along to tunes makes the time. I bet if you sing along with tunes for an hour, you won't feel like it's an hour like if you did very detailed um, exercises. I also know somebody, she had a TBI, but she got hit by a car and hit in the language center. She presented exactly like all the stroke survivors I'd worked with, physically, had right side deficits and very stroke-like. And her sister just stumbled onto this. I mean, I knew about it before, but I also lived through this with them 6 or 7 years ago. Her sister started playing her favorite tunes in the car while they were riding around to doctor's appointments. We all go to a lot of doctor's appointments in the beginning. And she noticed that her sister at first just started trying to mouth some of the choruses. And then she got some of the choruses, and then eventually she sang along with her songs. And her speech therapist noticed the difference, the improvement. So, singing music is a very powerful thing because, as you know, and we've explored in a number of conversations on neurologic music therapy, music opens up your brain like nothing else, like no drug can, far greater than any other type of exercise. When they put those little caps on you with all the sensors and do brain imaging, it lights up almost all the areas of your brain. I've got a neurologic music therapy group, and I've got a picture in there of normal brain on exercise, brain on music, and not much, more, a whole lot.
Is that vocal music or music with instruments?
Any kind of music engages. There's actually a study. I'm not going to get the exact piece right. It's either a Bach or Beethoven concerto, and they studied it. Actually, studied different kinds of music, and they found that this one. I don't know if they went what kind of genres. I don't know if they did hip hop and country music and
Mhm.
old time, give me that old time rock and roll or
Mhm.
whatever, just classic music. But among the pieces they studied, and I know this is incomplete information, they found that this one Bach or Beethoven piece opened up, did more good than others. So, but I think that if I could call up that study and look at it, I would suspect that the difference wasn't astronomical. I would say that, and this is my opinion, a scientific wild ass guess, that it doesn't make all that much difference exactly what the music is. I would say though, if it's music you like and it engages you and you spend more time doing it, then that's the best music. If you hate
That's right.
listening to Bach and Beethoven concertos, then it doesn't matter what they found out in that study, does it?
That's right.
Back to putting
You
your
have to
time
find what works for you. So that brings us to a neuroplastic principle of the fancy word is saliency. Saliency just means, is it important to you? So to Ralph's point, find the music that you love and incorporate that. Sing, if you're riding on an exercise bike, listen to your music and sing along with it. Just do the best you can, right? You're working on making those connections and practicing. So time matters. Go ahead, Ralph.
Oh, I was just gonna say one more thing, and I'll stop trying to steal your show.
Mhm.
One thing that also happens with music, in addition to it lighting up the whole brain, is a lot of the music centers on the right and the language centers on the left. So what happens when you start doing language and music singing along, you're engaging both sides of the brain, and there's something called ipsilateral. Ips, Ipsilateral means, well, it's actually bilateral therapy. So what's happening is if you're doing music and engaging that right side, some of those signals are going over to the left.
It crosses
Right, about 15,
corpus callosum.
according to Dr. Hetzler, our neuroscientist who had a stroke, about 15% of the signals that are generated cross over to the other side of the brain. So you're actually using the right side of your brain, by engaging the right side of your brain, you're using it to help the left side. The Broca's typically, there are many kinds of aphasia, but the most common one is Broca's aphasia caused by damage to Broca's area. So you're actually helping um, fix the left side of your brain by using the right side of your brain.
Linda, would you like to tell us what you like? I know you like to attend the Stroke Buddy meetings. What else do you do?
Well, I always have a background music on because I really like music. So I always have that, and I do a lot of some games on my iPad. I do a lot of word searches. I always incorporate those, at least once or twice or three times a day.
Okay.
Um, you know, I feel like I learned from them and want to regain a lot of my knowledge. Um, I have a master's degree and I am a retired school teacher. And so I really had a lot of knowledge, but sometimes it's coming back. Math is my downfall. I have to really think real hard, and I really think about the dates of the calendar. I run that through my head all day so that I know what day it is. And I use it to remind my husband, you got to do this and got to do that, and so it's slowly, coming back, but not as fast as it was. But I do see it though. But I try to do at least two things. And one thing is when my husband is talking to me, and I'm trying to do something on the iPad and the music is playing. Three things are almost too much for me because I can't quite, tune him in like I need to. But I'm working on it. So
So
that's
you
that's kind of
bring up
what
a great point, Linda. Doing three things at once.
I'm trying
Whew.
to.
Well, yeah, well, that's therapeutic, but
Yeah.
do you find it interferes with your relationship with your husband? So if he sees you working and
Yeah.
the music's going and he needs your attention, how do you make that shift? Does he turn off the music or do you well, how does that work?
Well, usually I will quit typing on my iPad or something, and then I'll focus on what he says. So yeah, I try just for just for a little bit to try to be typing on the iPad and listening and having the music, but it just becomes too much. So then I have to really focus on what he's wanting or saying to
Sure.
me. So,
Well, I just thought of another thing you can do, not with the husband talking to you, but if you're, what kind of music are you listening to, first of all, like for background?
it's just a station, it's oldies,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. So what you could do, you could be working on your iPad, have the music on in the background, and then write down the name of the song or the artist as they change.
and
Because
some,
then what you're doing, you're shifting your attention to doing something,
uh-huh,
and then you come back and
yeah,
you keep working and you're listening, and then you hear a commercial come on if it's real.
or a
Yeah,
song,
if it's not streaming, or the next song comes on, write it down, come back. So the other thing is flipping over cards.
okay,
If you're working on your iPad and whatever the game is you're doing, you can be flipping over cards like a deck of playing cards one at a time. And then you go back and you go over and flip a card, come back.
okay, that's a good idea
You're
too.
challenging your attention system.
Yes,
And attention is what we need for everything.
uh-huh. And my right side doesn't work. So when I'm sitting at the iPad, am always fiddling with my leg and with my hand, and I'm making sure that they're stretching or, that they're reaching for something. So I feel like I'm kind of working that part too, because I just don't want to ignore them. I want to keep them active.
Yeah, that's great attention as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Well, wonderful. I really love hearing these examples.
I
Our
have a question.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Are some games better than others, like spelling games or any certain games?
The best games are the ones that give you a bit of a challenge.
Oh, okay.
If they're really easy, one of my favorite apps, I used to do it it was before I started the private practice, when I actually used to sit on the couch and watch TV. Now I sit here.
Mhm.
This is my little space. Word Chums is one of my favorite apps, and it's free. And I'm not an affiliate. I don't get any money by recommending them, but I like Word Chums. It's like Scrabble, but you can play against the computer, and there's 9 different levels. And I find it so good for mental flexibility. And when I haven't played for a while, it takes me a while to get back into it. And by a while, probably 3, 4 games. And then I start working up the computer, those 9 levels you're against a different computer. You can also play with friends. I used to have you can have multiple games going at one time. So if you're playing with a real person and they're taking a while to respond, you can jump to your game with the computer, for example. But I used to do with a couple clients, I'd have games going with them, and I play against the computer and be watching TV. Kind of watching TV. TV's on, I may not be watching it. Does that make sense? But this is all about neuroplasticity, and what we know from the research, you got to stimulate it. It's got to be motivating. Go ahead, Ralph.
I was just going to tell Linda, and anybody else that's interested, I dropped, we have a puzzles and brain games group. I remembered it when, I thought about it before, but when she said something about math, I don't know, lately I've been dropping math problems in there. People also do jigsaw puzzles and find 10 things wrong with this picture or find the hidden words, those kinds of things. But there's a number of math problems in there, and you start showing up, I'll make sure there are more and more math problems in there for you. I also sent, so I dropped it in the chat for anybody who's interested. Linda also sent it to you by way of messenger directly.
Wonderful. Oh, one of my friends who has aphasia was trying to get on here today with us. I just got a text from him. He wasn't able to get on. We'll have to send him a link once you
Yeah, we
finish
can do
this
that.
recording on YouTube.
If you want, I can drop the YouTube link in there and he can jump on now.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ralph. Let's do that.
Give me a second. I'll drop it in the chat.
Yeah, okay.
I'll be doing a little bit of this in the meantime.
Okay, so ignore Ralph's faces while he's busy working. Okay.
Genevieve, what about Wordscape?
Words. Oh, I love that one where it's got the letter, like the letters in a circle, and you gotta put them in. I think it's great.
Okay.
The only thing that irritates me is on the free version, all the ads, but I know why they do it because they want you to buy it. Yeah, I think I've got 3 or 4 different versions of that, and I love it. Do you?
Yes. That's the
Yeah.
first thing I do in the morning.
Good for you. Good for you. Hello, Philip. Welcome. Thank you, Ralph. I got it.
Okay.
I was looking for you and on the YouTube, and it wasn't working. It was saying you were there, but I couldn't. I was doing no chat at all, so I came in here.
Oh no. In order to do chat on YouTube, you have to. I can't do it and run this meeting all at the same time. I'd have to have some. So I don't think I have chat enabled there. Maybe one day if I get a volunteer.
It hasn't.
Do that, but
It said I was saying a lot of stuff, but it wasn't doing anything. So I said, let me come here instead.
okay.
Very
Well,
cool.
yeah.
All right.
In order to do that effectively, and I have a friend who does that. He's got somebody that's managing the chat over there on YouTube and then feeding it to him as appropriate. Because, I mean, Zoom's on one screen, my YouTube's over there, half dragged off of out of the way.
I understand.
See
I want to do it, see if I can do it. I would rather do it in a Zoom meeting anyway, but so I said, let me do this to see if it works. I'd rather do this anyway. It was a way to see if I can do something different, and it works. But I'd rather be here anyway.
Well, you get to meet people and you get to interact
Yeah.
constantly. I mean, you just keep talking and ask, going back and forth. Whereas that's a lot harder with chat.
Yeah.
And the host has to recognize you and feed it into the other stream.
I understand.
So anyway,
Yeah.
welcome.
I did 10 months of live shows, Ralph, but there's no way I could have done it without somebody managing the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Because then I get totally off topic trying to, and trying to shift back was crazy. But boy, did I learn a lot of skills doing live shows and just going for it. Okay, so we've been talking about neuroplasticity, some principles, and we've kind of covered them, but let's go through them more consistently. Use it or lose it. Everybody, is that an amen? Am I hearing it? Thank you, Marshall.
Yep.
Right. Amen.
Use
Use it to improve it.
Yep, use it to improve it. That's number 2. Be specific. What is it you're working on? What, consciously know what you're trying to accomplish. When we know we're working towards a goal, Like if Linda's saying she wants to improve her math, you know, but you can't just say math. You got to say, I need to be able to calculate a tip on, when you're signing your receipt when you're out at a meal. Be specific. And then repetition, repetition, repetition. Do it again. And if it doesn't work great the first or second or third time, reflect about it. Think about what could be different. Let's take the example of being out at a meal and you're filling out the charge card. You're putting in your tip, you're signing and doing all that. And you know that you get distracted if somebody's talking to you at the same time, then you just say, give me a second, let me finish this. You find a way, right? So if you know they're talking to you and then you mess it up and you're scribbling it out, then you have to do something. You have to advocate for yourself and say, 1 second, let me finish this. Right? So there's a part of advocacy for yourself and recognizing when something's not working as well. Intensity. I'd rather do exercise at the gym for 30 minutes intensively and get it done than drag it out for 2 hours. Other people will feel differently. But whatever it is, to work on it intensively. And you can do it for shorter bursts of time that way. Repeat skills over and over. Time investment matters. Transferring. So Jerry, you talked about working on your speech and being very purposeful and enunciating. Well, you want to transfer that over to going to coffee with a friend, making sure you're still thinking about your speech and being purposeful and intentional. When you're at the grocery store and you need to ask for help to find something, have the thought, I'm going to be purposeful and intentional with my speech. So you are working to transfer over that skill. When we talked about automatic things, you would think that it would just happen, right? That automatic would kick in, right? Does anything help automatically? Maybe you are getting something better, but you got to think about it and be purposeful. And then interference. We've been talking about background music or music that you want to sing along to, but yet you're doing another task. You're introducing interference, and that's challenging your brain. So those are some of the big parts of neuroplasticity. And I've met a lot of clients that have come into my practice. And they told me that, a year previous, they were discharged from therapy because they had reached a plateau. Is this something that any of you have ever been told? Did a therapist or a doctor say, that's it, you hit the plateau? Is that true, Jerry?
Yep.
I
Plateaued you.
I plateaued you and I'm not coming back.
No. The therapist this came up with one therapist, physical therapist I was talking to. And since then, I've asked every PT and OT and therapist that I've had on, I will see if you agree with it or not, Genevieve. Had 5 or 6 say absolutely. And I'm always careful because you don't want to imply that physical or occupational therapists are intentionally plateauing anybody, but they plateau you in the sense that they don't continue to challenge the brain and mix it up. And if that happens to you, the thing to do is, this is for most people out there in YouTube land. Number one, don't listen to them. Number two, or don't believe that you've plateaued. Number two would be find somebody who is going to challenge you, but ask for another therapist. If you get plateaued and kicked out, next time you get back in, don't go back to the same one. But now, people that live in small towns, like I did after my stroke, there was one PT and I didn't get along with him. And it was either that or drive 50 miles, and I couldn't drive at the time. I had a friend dropping me off, so that wasn't an option. So I did the best I could with them, and I did everything at home, and I just got some advice from them. And what Genevieve's saying today is, what I believe that most of our getting better occurs at home. Most of it occurs on our own. Genevieve's like a piano teacher. She can teach you stuff to do, but you got to practice during the week or you don't get better. Your piano teacher would know if you only ever showed up for the lesson. So you can't just show up 45 minutes once a week with your PT and think that you're going to get much better. She shouldn't be actually doing the repetitive things in any kind of therapy that you have. You should be learning stuff, new stuff, so that you can take it home and put in your time.
Right. So plateau, and this was something when I was in school, they talked about it all the time, 6 months and you're done. And for the last 10 years, I've worked with survivors who've had aphasia for years. It's what we refer to as chronic aphasia. And I start working with them, and because we have a different approach and we're trying to look at the whole person, because we're not just talking about aphasia, are we? We have to talk about how do you interact with the people around you? How do you advocate for yourself? There's just so much to it. My point is this: there is no plateau. If you want to get better in a specific area, you can work on it absolutely on your own, or you find a clinician that specializes in that can help you with an action plan to move forward. So, and what we've talked about here today is that neuroplasticity is the opposite of a plateau, or it busts that concept of a plateau, doesn't it? Because we know you have control. You can make a choice. You can get ideas. Ralph's got all these wonderful stroke groups, the puzzles and games one and the exercises one. And there's just so many to choose from. You don't have to make it all up on your own. And that's the good part. Ralph, where do we see a list of all your groups? Is that somewhere that people can find other than just searching stroke buddies?
Well, if you type in stroke buddies into Facebook, you'll get most of them. And I have it posted in a couple of groups. The problem with Facebook always, well, there is such a thing as files, and you could have featured posts and stuff, but typically people don't know how to use files, and so lots of I have it featured in maybe in fitness. I post it every once in a while. I can certainly send it to anybody who wants me to send it to them. Jerry?
I would.
Jerry, is your Facebook name Jerry Taylor?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Nice.
Some of them are pretty highly specialized. Well, right now we're working on a new group photo for the Guitar After Stroke group. I had a picture of a non-stroke survivor playing a guitar that I put in there 3 years ago when I started the group, and Gary Miller had the idea, like we do in wellness. We've got 2 yoga teachers, Jill's Fitness and Sound Healing, and a nutritionist. We've got the experts on the group. So we're right now working on putting 4 guitar players, stroke survivor guitar players, for the group photo. So not everybody plays guitar, but not everybody goes fishing or horseback riding or golf. But there are the major ones are Young Stroke Buddies, the main group by and for stroke survivors, fitness, and wellness. Those are the 4 big ones. But I'll send them to you. And okay. And Philip, you use your Philip Oxidine? Is that your Facebook name?
No, yeah, I have my own channel now. For people who have aphasia like us, it's my own channel, but we talk about with other people with aphasia. I have like 4 people written in right now, and we talk with each other. It's on my page. So basically, what happened is when I'm talking about aphasia, in the beginning, it's like we're talking about other people saying, "My name is Phil, and I have aphasia," and I was saying, what is it like after you go out in the world and talk to other people? Like,
Okay.
you know what I mean? It's like,
Are you aphasia, Phil?
yeah,
Okay, well, we're already connected. Yeah, I approve your posts. We've been corresponding through Messenger. So I'll just I'll drop them to you in Messenger. I just wanted to make sure if I promise somebody I'm going to get them something that I don't, well, I will do it, but I also don't want to like hang up here and then go, wait, it's not his name on, so it's aphasia Phil. Okay.
Yeah, love that. Phil, I'd love to connect with you outside of this too.
too, because there's a lot of people. I want my goal is like this. We're just people with something else. We are kids with aphasia. We are kids with something else. And it's easier to us to talk for ourselves. Like a speech pathologist, and I can say it right one time, usually a speech teacher, it's going for else, but it's for us. It's saying, what is it talking about for ourselves? And so it's saying a lot of times we be more comfortable than talking about ourselves. You know, we all have aphasia. I don't, and my everything I'm talking about, I said, my name is Phil and I have aphasia, and that's it. I want to talk your stories, what you're talking about. So I'm telling anybody, like, I got good how to do YouTube right, the right way to do that stuff. So I want to have a community for everybody else saying, talk about yourself, but if you want to talk about cats, talk about cats too. The lady want to talk about the squirrels. I haven't got her yet, but I want everybody to say, if you want to talk about squirrels, you're going to use my own platform, but I will tell you how to get on YouTube yourself. So you want to talk about cats or squirrels all the time. So that's some of my goals too. So what I'm doing now is I'm trying to find out aphasia friendly how to get on YouTube.
Awesome. Phil, let's connect. I think that'd be great. I put my email in the chat if anybody wants that. And so I would love to leave you guys by thanking you for being here today. Go ahead, Ralph. You're on mute.
Yeah, I was coughing. I just got over the first cold I've had. Well, I know I can't remember the last time I was sick. I haven't had one in 15 and a half years since I moved to South Carolina. Anyway, so I didn't want to cough at everybody and interrupt the meeting. I have one real quick thing for somebody I've been chatting with who can't be here today, and so maybe she can watch in the replay and hear what you might have to say. The whole thing with aphasia came up on another post, and she said something like, "How do you know if you have aphasia, and who figures it out for you?" And we got into a conversation, and I asked her, well, I told her if she didn't want to put it in public, to go to Messenger and let me know what was going on, and we did. And she said, I gave her some of the basics of what aphasia is, and she said she had slight recall issues and mixing things up. She called it word finding and close, not quite. She said sometimes she'll do, an example she used was sometimes she'd say vacuum cleaner when she meant lawnmower. I told her both of those are fairly common, you know. Actually, some people it's very severe. They know the word they want to say, but they just can't. Well, one of my friends said, they're like butterflies flying by and I can't grab them. And
Yep.
another said it's like looking in the closet and knowing what you want to wear, but you can't take it out to wear it. Anyway, and and mixing up, I saw Linda nod her head there. So it's a fairly common issue. the recall issue can be very severe, can be very minor. Obviously, she's a couple years out and hers must be minor. I told her the best way would be to go to a speech and language pathologist. I am going to put her in touch with you, or have, and told her to watch this. What kind of exercises or work can you do to improve those two things? Are they related at all?
Absolutely,
It seems to
absolutely.
me they actually are related. It's the inability to associate the right thing with what you're thinking.
But
And
what those
that's
are an association, right? She got her word finding to a category. Vacuum and lawnmower are still mechanical. You use them out of the house. One's inside, one's outside. So we work on building those connections and building that network, because that's all of our words. We don't have just one spot in our head where our dictionary is, our lexicon. It's all over our head. And emotion has something to do with it. Our memories have something to do with it. You know, I can't pronounce a 10-syllable chemical, you know, but my husband can, because that's his field, right? He doesn't know all the vocabulary words I have because they're in my field. Does that make sense? So we have to tap into interests and connections, and there's definitely lots of ways to work on it. Plus, we have to challenge ourselves to remember, we talked about transference. We have to carry these words over. So if you have to get creative with it, and a speech pathologist can help dig into, where does it break down? Is it coming up with a concept, or is it getting that exact category where the word is? If I want blender and I talk about a microwave, a refrigerator, and the toaster, I'm in the general area. I'm in a section in the ballpark. I like the stadium analogy. I'm in the right section in the ballpark. I just don't have the seat yet. But I can talk around it, and then I can say, I want that thing, that you make a smoothie with, or a milkshake, it's got a motor, it's like this big. And then the other person that's listening can help you find that word, right? So we can, what we call circumlocution, we can talk around it. So there's lots of techniques, but you need the speech pathologist to figure out, where is it breaking down?
Well, yeah, and I'm recommending that she see someone just so that
Just
so I think that, from what she's describing, you and I can say pretty much what she's got, but an interactive session with a speech pathologist would really help her nail down the issues that she actually is dealing with, and then she can take a focused approach. Is that something that you could do with her virtually?
absolutely. And that's what I want to leave you guys with. I've been in telepractice for 10 years, 10, almost 11 now. So I see people across the United States and internationally. For those who, Shri looks like she had popped into the chat. I'm going to send you an email, Shri. So that's the beauty of telepractice. You are not limited by who is around the corner from you or the closest hospital to you. And that's what's important to know.
Two quick things, and that is, this goes both ways. We thank you for sharing your knowledge, and one of the things that I do is I share back with you all of the emails from the invite, so you'll get Shree's email along with everybody that registered. And for everybody who's watching this in the future on YouTube, all of Genevieve's contact information will be in the description below the video if you want to reach out to her. So, well, we're ended like right at 12 on the
I
dot.
know, it's great, because I have somebody waiting for me to torture them, but I dropped one more link in the chat there. So what I have, it's a free guide. It's all about neuroplasticity. I talk about one of my clients, Dr. Roger, in there, and try and give you like an idea. If you wanted to work a little bit every day, what are some ideas and how could you put that into practice? It's all in this guide. I hope you'll download it and give me feedback. If you guys have questions, my email's in there. I'm an open book, happy to talk to any of you at any time, because it's about living your best life, not letting aphasia define you.
Thank you for remembering that, and all the YouTubers out there, download the downloadable guide link will also be in the description. So I know you have somebody to go torture. I love that. Some people call it the physical terrorists instead of the,
Yes, I love that too.
yeah. So
It's all comes from a loving place.
right. Well, of course, you can only, you have no right to make fun of other people if you don't make fun of yourself. Anyway,
Amen. Right, everybody.
go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You.
Thank
Have a
you,
good
Sheree.
weekend.
Bye.
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 Do all you can with what you have, in the time you have, in the place you are. Do all you can. Do all you can.